All right, so we'll go ahead and roll right into the top five. At number five, we got this guy has 62 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws, and most importantly, a very successful acting career.
Marvelous.
Marvin
Marvelous
Hagler.
Marvin Hagler.
Yes.
Yes.
That is probably my favorite boxer of all time. So
Yeah.
I'm a little partial. I had him like number 3 overall, and I had him over Duran because he beat Duran, and even though it wasn't official that he beat Leonard, a lot of people believe he beat him. I believe he beat him too, and just
Yeah.
knocked out Hearns. Right, like
Straight up.
he was a top dog for me. All right.
Mhm.
Yeah, great acting career over in Italy. He legally changed his name to Marvelous, so you had to call him Marvelous Marvin
Yeah, I
Hagler.
wrote it that way on my list. I put
Yeah,
it
Yeah,
that
so
way
did I.
specifically.
so yeah. So I have number 3 on my list.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
absolutely like one of my favorites, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and I always thought it was so cool. Like I forgot what I think was one documentary I was watching. They talked about his head shape. It was like the way his head was shaped was like giving him an advantage because like the top of his head was harder than normal, so it would be like
It
punching a
was
brick wall.
aerodynamic.
So like punching
Yeah.
his head would be just like punching a brick, and then
Mm,
it would just give him extra protection like a leather helmet or something.
mm, yeah.
Yeah, I think I had Marvin. I think I had him at 7, right? Just
I did too.
because of some of the losses. But I agree with you, Jose. Like Marvin Hagler was he was a warrior, man. He's one of my favorite fighters too. He was a warrior, and like his 3 losses were the Hall of Famers. So like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
That's
hey,
okay.
if you gonna knock me because my 3 losses are Hall of Famers,
Yeah.
fine. But
Yeah.
I think that speaks for itself, man. And he was a part of some wars,
Yeah.
some straight out drag down brawls, man. And I got respect for those guys that was in that era.
yeah, for sure. 100% with everything you guys said. I agree with. No complaints here. I had him ninth, but I am fine with him being fifth. It's fine. I'm good with it.
So moving on to number four. This one I do not agree with at all. Uh, this is actually my number one. This guy was 174, 19, and 6. I'm sure you all know Sugar
Sugar Ray
Ray
Robinson.
Robinson.
Really, I had him
What?
number one too. I had him
Yeah, I
number
had him at
one.
number one.
Yeah, so obviously, he beat Henry Armstrong. He was 5-1 against Jake LaMotta. I don't know why Jake kept coming back for that. When you watch Sugar Ray, one thing that really stands out to me is again he had a different style than what you used to see at that time. There were a lot of brawlers. Henry Armstrong was a ferocious inside fighter. He would just pressure you, pressure. With Sugar Ray, you know, he was a very slick fighter, a lot of movement, through a lot of combinations, a lot of, it was a kind of, I want to say a defensive fighter, but he had a more defensive slant to his game than most fighters did at that point. And you can see very obviously how Muhammad Ali took the influence from him. If you watch Sugar Ray, it's like watching Ali. Ali emulated his movement a lot. But I think he's a guy who was ahead of his time.
Way.
Yeah, ahead of his time, and just a dominant fighter for a long time. And I cannot believe all y'all disrespected him like this.
No. I had him one. I had him
Not,
number
not,
one.
not you, Suge. Not you. Not you.
I wasn't.
We're right
I
here.
wasn't gonna put a
All
number.
right?
Like,
I had
And
him number
looking at my list now, who I think y'all have in the top four, I'm done with you after this. If he pops up,
Hey,
listen,
I'm
man,
done with y'all.
Listen,
I'm
listen,
done.
listen. Yeah, that's great. You fought Jake LaMotta and all, but like, look, all these guys from the 1930s, man. I'm not. Listen, I can recognize the impact you have on the sport, but like, I hear historians say all the time, he would destroy Ali, he would destroy Floyd, he would destroy these people. No, he wouldn't, man. No, he wouldn't. Right?
he
Like
wouldn't
he was
destroy him. Huh?
he was great for his era, and I can recognize that. But all time, no, I'm not putting him up there. I have him number, I think, 4 on my list. Right.
That's still not bad. I'm
No.
fine with that.
But-
if you would have
but
said
he-
24th, I would have been like,
Oh
done
no.
with you.
But
I'm gonna still be done with you after I hear this name. If I hear this name, I
But-
swear to God, I'm done.
you might be done with me. But he was key for the sport of boxing. Like like B said and Deshaun, have referenced earlier. Like he if it weren't for fighters like him, if it weren't for him, the way we look at boxing now would be
Boxing
different.
isn't the same. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So no, absolutely.
And I 1,000% agree with Brodny when you say like he was ahead of his time. Like when I go back and watch his highlights, he doesn't look like the regular fighters or the other fighters the way he moves at that time. Like
Yeah, he
looks like he's coming back from the future or something.
Yeah. So, Mike, do you have anything else you want to say on this?
I mean, it's probably my fault because I didn't put him on my list.
Well, Mike gave that caveat earlier that some of the fighters that he didn't.
He was
know.
under pressure. Like Mikey said,
it's all right. I understand, Mike.
Listen, I not to say that it was easier for you guys. I kind of took out those guys, and like I said, I just focused on the modern era. Because I mean, he would have easily made my list. Like I said, the guys that's off my list, it's with respect. But I just kind of did it.
You had a cutoff date. Yeah.
All right, so
go, Brodny. Go.
Moving on to number 3.
Swear, if this is number 3, I'm gonna be so angry.
You're about to be extremely angry.
Let's go.
I'm looking at your list, and I see where you have him ranked, and I'm angry with you.
Why?
Because you have him ranked at 19.
Okay,
because
why.
Let's go. Hold
on. Before he brings him up, you had somebody that weighed 86. You had somebody win 86 fights in a row, and you think this guy should be top 3, top 4?
Dude,
oh hell!
You have him 6 spots below Canelo.
Yeah, because Canelo's still fighting. He's still at this time. He's still fighting. He ain't fighting Jake Paul. He ain't fighting Jake Paul or whatever else his name is.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oh my
Let's
God.
go.
Show me the money.
He's 50-0.
Listen.
He's 50-0.
Can we all agree that he made Canelo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That massive ass beating was what made Canelo the man he is today.
And there's a perception that he didn't fight anybody that he ran. He beat everyone.
He beat everyone.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Not only did he beat everyone, he made Hall of Famers look like garbage.
I understand that, but call me when you win. Call me when you win 80 fights in a row.
Okay, but that's not the way that's not the way
he's beating people that are on this top 25 list that we have.
Like when you look at
Julio really count?
Chavez,
yes, it counts.
Yes.
When you look at Julio, okay, 87 wins in a row, right? 87 wins in a row. 80 of them are people who shouldn't have been in the ring with him, if we're being honest. Like, it's impressive to win that many fights in a row, but you didn't beat anybody.
He's too high.
You didn't beat anybody.
I had him on the list. I didn't disrespect him. I had him on the list.
You disrespected him.
For me, like like I said earlier, like I graded high on notable wins. Right, notable wins was huge for me. He's got all the wins, yo. He's got all the wins.
Like people said that they kind of dogged him for that Manny Pacquiao fight. Like, oh, well, you waited until Manny was old. First of all, he's older than Manny. But second of all, Manny came back and won a world championship against an undefeated fighter after that.
One time Thurman, he dominated his fight last weekend.
It's like with Juan Manuel Marquez, Hall of Fame fighter. He made him look terrible. Canelo, granted, Canelo was very young, obviously. Yeah, but he made him look terrible. All of the fighters that he fights
go back to Diego Corrales, Jose Luis Castillo. Like, I mean,
Jose didn't look terrible. Jose fought him very, very well.
He did, but he beat him twice. I mean, De La Hoya, Shane Mosley, Zab Judah. Like, he went through everybody.
You know who I wish Floyd would have fought? Christian Bale. That's all I'm gonna say.
Bro,
sorry, that's a joke. That's our joke.
They tried to say Manny tore his rotator cuff before the fight. No, Manny tore his rotator cuff missing hundreds of punches that he tried to land on Floyd.
If he even tore it, man. Like, I think he was.
If he even tore it, yeah.
Look, you guys are more, and I'll let Mike talk after this. You guys are more Floyd fans than I am.
Yeah.
I have not. I have always.
Grateful, Mike.
God damn it! Because I saw Mike was going to say something and I interrupted him. I apologize, Mike. I'm sorry, but all I'm saying is, for me, Floyd is like almost what Mike is saying about older fighters. To me, he's just not.
You need some distance, sure.
He needs to be. He's top. I maybe did kind of disrespect him putting him 19th. Maybe he belongs top 15, top 10.
Look, Suge,
but that's just me.
You put any of these fighters in the top 25, it's not disrespect, man. Like these are the greats of all time.
There's
So,
been
like,
a lot of boxes,
19,
bro.
Yeah, it's whatever. Yeah,
but I'm saying all of you guys had him. What? I'm assuming all you guys had him top 5.
I had him number 2.
Yeah, I had him 2. I had him 2.
I had him 1.
Yeah,
I had Floyd 1, man.
He beat too many Hall of Famers, man. He beat too many like all time he
Shane
beat great fighters.
another one.
Yeah, Shane Mosley.
I
you
just
guys
think,
you guys have your opinions.
I just think the impact. I just think Floyd's impact. We're watching it today, right? He's part of the reason why these fighters are getting millions of dollars to fight like they are now. He is part of that reason. He took control. He's also part of the reason why a lot of these big names, the Canelos. Well, Canelo, I mean, he's still. He found himself in an issue with Oscar and all of that, but like, I mean, he's part of the reason why these guys are able to take their own name and create their own stables and tags and whatever you want to call it and make a majority of the money now. You know, look at you guys speak about it on LBHT show all the time about how UFC fighters are getting dogged.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Floyd was a part. He was a part of that movement that flipped the tides in boxing, where these guys are still taking the money. So impact, it played a part in my decision. I mean, and then damn, he's just. Anytime you got to find an excuse on some of these guys that he beat, like B just said, yo, they said Manny was too old, but he's fucking older than Manny. Right. Like how can you use that excuse?
Come on, yo.
Your excuse for Canelo. Canelo was too young, but nobody said Floyd was too old.
Right. He was way past.
So, like, I remember specifically when he fought Shane Mosley in the second round. Mosley landed a nice right hand on him. He hurt him. Yep. I mean, he wasn't in trouble, but he hurt him. And by the 12th round of that fight, people said Mosley was washed.
Yeah. I still
in round 2, it was Floyd's time has come.
Yep.
It's done.
Yep.
Sugar's gonna get him up out of here. And then half hour later, they said, "Man, Mosley washed."
But when he fought Canelo,
I had Sugar Shane on my list too.
When he fought Canelo, like when he took that fight, I remember the media was saying, "Oh, we're going to give him credit for for not ducking anybody, or like he's taking a good fighter, that's entering his prime, because Canelo was the hot thing. He had beat Shane Mosley prior
and Cotto
and Cotto. Oh no, I think Cotto was after that, right?
I think Cotto was before, but
I think Cotto was after that. But everybody saying, "Oh, we won't give him props," because they assumed that Canelo was going to win. Yeah. And when he beat Canelo, it was like, oh well, he's only 23, like he's still young, like that's why he just fought a young fighter. But that's always been a story with Mayweather, because he's not liked, right? And that was part of his persona, and that's what made him millions and millions of dollars, is that the way he fought in the latter half of his career it wasn't flashy, right? And when he fought these guys and he beat them, he outpointed them. They always talk about, oh, he didn't really hurt me. It just couldn't quite hit him. And people hated that. And they always, but people always, just his attitude, his brazen attitude and his style of fighting was always a big draw, because nobody wanted to miss that day. Everybody
wanted to see him lose. Where
he lost. And he just never lost. He never lost, Like that's why anytime he took a fight, when he finally did Pacquiao, everybody saying, oh, they took the fight too late. But it was the highest selling fight in history.
And Floyd, like, another thing for
Shook's
me,
so mad. He just playing Apex now. Look at him.
He's like, let me know when you're done talking about this, man.
Look at. I've already unfollowed LBHT. I unfollowed Off the Record. I unfollowed. I already blocked all you guys on Twitter. Like,
I mean,
my bad, Mike. Go ahead.
But he was just Floyd. Also was one. He was a master in the ring. He was probably one of the first. When I really started to study boxing, right, and when he was reaching that latter half of his career, he was probably one of the first fighters I ever seen, be able to see what a guy is doing in a round or two, and come up with the game plan in his head as he's fighting and whip his ass.
Yeah, because apparently it takes Lomachenko like 7 rounds to down him.
And that to me was amazing. Also knowing the backstory of Floyd, right? Floyd's an asshole. We all know that, right? He does have asshole in him, but he took care of himself. Like, he walked around at 147, and that's just his weight. He didn't have to make weight. That's what he walked around with. He played that persona up that he partied and he clubbed, and after that, but we all seen after the Pac fight, he went home and was chilling. Like, everybody thought he was going to the club because he allowed them to promote a party with his name. He wasn't there. So it's things like that about Floyd. I gotta give it to him, man. He made it look easy on a lot of people's favorite fighters, and that part of it is just like, yeah.
That's really the biggest thing to me is, I mean, there are a lot of names that he beat, a lot of great fighters that he beat and everything, but it's how, when he got in the ring with those guys, the gap in talent that was apparent. Like I said, he got in there with Juan Manuel Marquez, who was a great fighter, and Marquez couldn't touch him. I mean, he got in there with De La Hoya, he got in there with Mosley, he got in there with Cotto, he got in there with one of my favorite fights from Floyd. And I understand this dude didn't really belong in there with him was Gotti. I mean, about a guy who he was teleporting around the ring, hitting him in like 6 different spots at the same time. Like, it was a 100% pro Gotti crowd. And after a few rounds, all they were saying, like, they weren't cheering for Gotti anymore. They were just like, oh. And so, like, he just made everybody look like they were a step or 2 below.
Yeah.
I will say though, I think Cotto beat him up the best. Most.
I think he said that.
And he said that. That's when
he
went back to. That's when he went back to his dad.
Yeah.
After he brought his dad back into camp after that Cotto fight, because Cotto roughed him up pretty good.
Yeah.
Look, the only solidarity I get out of this is knowing the next couple people beat up his dad, so I'm okay with it. So
we'll go on to number 2 here. Number 2. I'm sure that you all know the last 2 people who are around, so we'll just go ahead. Number 2, Sugar Ray Leonard,
one of my favorite fighters. God,
he got the wins over. I mean, you can call them controversial, you can say they were robberies, whatever. He got the wins over Duran, Hearns, Hagler, and I mean, just a great fighter. And he was also the entertainer. That's the part that a lot of fighters don't bring in. He was that Hollywood that a lot of fighters don't ever really kind of get their arms around. He was a box office guy. Like I said, when he fought Hearns, it was the biggest purse of all times. At that point, $17 million, and he was just a superstar in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
So.
I think Raven online. I mean, I don't know if he's feeling Sugar Ray.
It might not be feeling
it's because of the Hagler fight, isn't it? Like, it's because of the Hagler fight that turned a lot of people off. But I think Hagler beat him. But that doesn't really change. I mean, look, I had Hagler ahead of Sugar Ray Leonard on my list. Sugar Ray Leonard is.
So did I.
Yeah. He's like fourth or fifth. I'm looking at the screen here. I had him right below Hagler, but yeah. He said, "Yep." See, yeah. But everything else, man, like he beat Hearns, and the comeback win to beat Duran, that was impressive because he changed up his style. Like anytime you can take an L and make the adjustments to come back and win against a great fighter, that's real impressive to me. So yeah, I'm fine with it there.
And I get what you're saying. The Hagler fight is, when you go back and watch that fight, you're like, yeah, Hagler probably won that. Sugar Ray did a whole thing where his corner was telling him right before the round would end, he'd do a bunch of fast hits in order to get
to try and steal it.
to try to steal it and things like that. So I could see that. But the one thing you can't say about Leonard was he never ducked anybody. He went for every fight. And he fought killer, like we talked about earlier. Those four were killers, but not only just talk about the rest of that division. That division was tough when they were fighting. And he fought killers. I mean, Tommy Hearns, go back and watch that fight. He's beating the crap out of Leonard. You know, Leonard was in the fight, but he was getting beat up. And remember, he messed up his eye, and that's what kind of did the whole thing where he was going to announce that he was going to fight Hagler, but then decided not to, and then waited. And Hagler kind of got pissed off about that because he was like, "I thought you were going to fight." Whatever, but
he had a detached retina.
Well, he did have a detached retina, but he can't. They did a whole thing where he was going to come into the ring and announce he was going to fight Hagler, and then he said, "No, I'm retiring," and then came back later to fight him. So Hagler was kind of pissed off because at that time, if the fight had happened at that time, it would have been. I think they're more both in their prime at that time than when they fought later. But I've always revered Leonard because he had great fights. I mean, he just wars against these people, and so I had him 3, I believe, in my list. Yeah, I had him 3, because I did have Sugar Ray Robinson number 1, and obviously we know who number 1 is, but I had him 3. I've always, huh?
Do we?
It's Rocky Marciano. He beat Joe Lewis's ass.
The point about Sugar Ray, like for me, it's the odd test. Like, he checks all the boxes for sure, but for me, the biggest one is just like watching him. Like, that hand speed was almost inhuman. Like, we talk about those flurries he was hitting people with, like. It might not sound like the greatest, like the most dangerous thing in the world, but like when you actually watch how many times he's hitting these dudes just repeatedly, it's like a machine gun. Like, one of the quickest fighters I've ever seen. And just like the perfect package in boxing: offense, defense, mental, like that ability to be able to get in your opponent's head and, you know what I'm saying, throw them off their game. That's a huge part of boxing that a lot of the great ones just don't never develop. They'd rather just be the quiet guy, let my fighting do the talking for me. But you got to have that extra, ability to be able to draw in a crowd too. That's what sells the fight.
Absolutely.
So, you never know. We'll see who number 1 is in a minute.
Shug, we can be buddies again because I had him at 3 on my list as well. So
there we go. I forgive you, Mike.
I had him, I think, down at 8.
But Sugar Ray, I mean, everything that you guys said, is nothing much. Only thing I can add to it is he is now a Maryland resident. And I've run into Sugar Ray too down in Bethesda.
What the hell?
What?
So, yeah,
hey,
man.
fam, you chilling with Joe Lewis and not Joe Lewis, Larry Holmes.
Wow.
I won't claim to chill with him, but I
chilling
did
with
see.
folks at IHOP, and now you be hanging with Sugar Ray.
I wasn't chilling. I seen the guys, but I wasn't. But yeah, he's been living in Maryland for years, man. He's been living.
I mean, all you guys can say you chill with Suge Knight, so I'm just saying.
That's right. So number 1 on the top 25 all-time pound for pound greatest fighters list, Muhammad Ali. Yeah. I don't think there's any explanation needed there.
Right.
I mean, his nickname is the greatest. So that kind of gives you the explanation that you need.
And we kind of been talking about him all throughout this.
Really have. I mean, because he's connected us to so many fighters.
Yeah.
I mean, Sugar Ray talked about it. Muhammad got him hooked up with Angelo Dundee. Is Angelo Dundee?
Yep.
Got him hooked up with him, And he talked about the influence that Ali had on him, and Ali told him, "This is what you got to do to sell yourself." Like Deshaun was saying, selling yourself sells the fight. So this is what you got to do. You talk about the impact he had with Joe Frazier, George Foreman, all these other greats that are on here. Muhammad, and granted, like Larry Holmes said, well, he couldn't knock a person out because he had pillow hands and things like that. But it was the flair that he did it with, the way that he moved around for his size.
It was unseen at heavyweight.
It was unseen at that time, exactly, Deshaun. And it just what he did, and we talked about it with the George Foreman thing. People thought he was a gay murderer. Go back and ask all these old boxing heads, what did you actually honestly think going in a fight? And people say we thought he was going to be dead. So what he did, and even go further, where he beat Leon Spinks, where he beat Leon Spinks, and at that time he wasn't supposed to do that, even though it was later, and Leon Spinks maybe wasn't the greatest heavyweight to win a championship at that time, at that age. Muhammad really, and I think this is one of the cases he went too long. He should have never been in the ring with Larry Holmes. I think that was a bad decision, and it really messed him up. But at the end of the day, you look at his accomplishments, you look at his record, you look at everything he did, the importance he had in not only in the boxing game but in life. He did a lot, and I think that's why he's number one. And I had him number two. Only I had Sugar Ray Robinson number one, but I had no problem with Ali being one. I think you're right.
I think they're kind of interchangeable at the top of the list there, and it's disgusting that y'all let my man Sugar Ray fall to 4. But whatever, it's fine.
Now, for sure, with Ali, we talk about guys that boxing wouldn't look like what it does without them. That holds true tenfold for Muhammad Ali, and it's just you talk about the decline of his career when you say he fought too long. People talk about it felt like watching a family member out there taking that punishment. That's how hard it hit people. So just that impact that he had is just unmatched. And as far as athletics, you talk about athletes that had the biggest impact in sports, he's on that list too, and he's pretty high up on it.
Yes. And the trash talking, that's him, right? Trash talking is a natural thing in sports, but to make it part of your game plan, that's not just a boxing thing. That transcends into every sport. You have players that they in other sports that they'll do trash talking to try to get in your head because you learned that from Ali. Hey, if I mess with him, beforehand, it's going to take him off his game. He's going to be too focused on trying to make an example out of me. He's not going to stick to the game plan, right? That's it. Every sport does that now. So so what he did transcended boxing.
Yeah, I mean, and in and out of the ring.
Yep.
It's his impact is just unquestionable. It's just what it is. I don't know how you. I mean, he was good at what he did, no question. So I don't know. I know the Sugar Ray Robinson argument, but it's not even really an argument. I think like you guys said, they kind of interchange. Some people might have one above the other, but it's never a disrespectful type conversation. You might hear with LeBron over Jordan or Kobe or something like that. It never gets that heated. It just is what it is. So I'm definitely not upset with him being number one on this list.
Yeah. So that is the whole top 25 list. Obviously, thank you guys for the conversation, and thank you everybody for watching. We did want to talk about a couple of the guys who didn't make the list, just real quick.
That's what I was going to say. I'm looking at my list, and I'm trying to think. I'm looking at my list, and I'm trying to think. Hold up, is certain people, did that person not make this list?
So this guy didn't actually make anybody's list, including the person who wanted to talk about him, but we'll talk about him anyway. Prince
Naseem.
Yes. I was literally gonna say, where is Prince Haseem? How do you not put him in the 1225? That guy has so much swagger.
Entertaining fighter to watch in the history of boxing, family.
My man would dance 8 minutes too long before coming out to the ring every time he fought.
He's a definition of a fad, yo. He was he had a good little 2-year stretch where you just yo, can anybody beat this guy? And they're he could beat me.
He was 36-0. At one point.
You know, the problem though was he wasn't really a prince, and that pissed me off.
Suge hates it when you lie to him, man. He just
it really gets to me, okay?
But, you know, I always remember Prince Nassim for his fight against Kevin Kelly. When it looked like he died in the ring 3 separate times, and he just hopped right back up.
He got hit, his eyes rolled in the back of his head. He fell, hit the mat, and tumbled and popped right back up. It was like,
and then knocked Kevin Kelly out.
Yeah,
bro, it was like watching a WWE superstar in the boxing ring.
Yeah,
but you knew he was actually hitting these dudes. Like,
yeah, he was
so this guy Suge was talking about him in the Discord. He made a couple of lists.
Tito.
I didn't have him on my list. I wish I don't know. I love Tito. I think at that time when I started really getting into boxing with my dad and my uncle, Tito was like the thing, and obviously he was Puerto Rican, and I was like, oh well, yeah. But I loved him. I mean, he was a great guy. Had a vicious. I think Jose said a vicious left hand.
Left hook. Yeah,
left hook. You know,
and the straight right.
Yep. And I want to point out he beat Sweet Pea, right? And that was not controversial. He just straight beat him. Yeah. He beat De La Hoya, so he's got the notable wins on his resume.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, look.
I think for Trinidad, you know, he's my favorite fighter, but you know, he didn't have the longevity necessarily. He was the biggest, brightest star in boxing for a short while. You know, he ran through a bunch of fighters. He moved up. He collected a few belts, and then he was gone.
Yeah,
and he retired.
I think Jose said it. He moved up too quick.
Yeah,
I think he moved. I think he was chasing this idea of just getting to these guys and beating them.
Yeah,
and he just moved up way too and ran into people that were just too. Yeah, and then he ran into somebody who was just that could deal with him. So
look,
put Puerto Rico back on the map.
This is one of my favorite fights of all time too, and it broke my heart when I saw Hopkins beat him down. But look, I'm not mad that he's not on this list. Like, look, it's hard to make the top 25 list of all time, man. Like he's up there, but you know,
he made my list of modern day fighters.
He was. I mean, I had Tito on my list, but like look, it's not gonna surprise me that he didn't make the cut.
So, any guesses who came in 26th? I'll give you a couple of names here. 27th was Trinidad. He missed by 3 points. He missed the list.
Yeah, I have 18th on my list.
Yeah, Alexis Arguello, Hector Camacho, Aaron Pryor. They
had Aaron Pryor.
They were a little further away. Rocky Marciano only got put on like one list.
That was mine.
23.
No, two lists. So yeah.
Right. So I'm assuming it's no. You said that nobody else put him on. I was gonna say that name.
So any guesses who came in 26th?
Let me find my list again. Let me find my list again.
Wait, that's Shane Mosley. I mean, it's a name I want to say, but I can't remember if I don't think we talked about this guy.
De La Hoya.
De La Hoya wasn't on the list.
No, he wasn't.
Did not.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Because my two misses were De La Hoya and Rocky Marciano. Which is disrespectful. You don't put Rocky Marciano, an undefeated heavyweight.
Who do
you all thinking? It doesn't matter.
He beat Joe Louis.
He beat Joe Louis's ass.
Now it doesn't matter who you fight.
Damn it! You set me up for that one. I missed it. All right. No, I'm okay with him not being on the list, but I had.
You're goddamn right, because he never beat anybody. Listen, he beat up Julio, and then every single other big fight you remember Oscar De La Hoya being in, he lost.
Lost to Sugar Shane.
Why are you making this personal for
Oscar was man
because I put him on the list.
Did he fight Chavez twice? I think he fought him twice.
I think Oscar should be on the list. He was on my list. I think Oscar should be here in the top 25.
I had him on my list.
So
Oscar didn't beat anybody.
Listen, Mikey. This is a long-standing discussion that we've had back in our old threads about De La Hoya, and I said De La Hoya is not one of the all-time greats. He's a Hall of Famer, but he's not one of the all-time greats because the perception is, he fought everybody, which he did, but he beat nobody. He beat nobody. Like I'm not giving you credit for beating a 48-year-old Chavez, right? Like for beating a washed up Hector Macho Camacho. Okay, like not, you don't get credit for
not
that.
actually beating Pernell Whitaker.
Yeah, for not being Pernell Whitaker. You fought Trinidad, you lost. You fought Mayweather, you lost. You fought Pacquiao, you lost. You fought Shane Mosley twice, you lost. Like you fought Canelo, you lost. You lost to all the great fighters.
Did he lose to Hopkins? He lost to Hopkins, right?
Yes.
He lost
with a body shot.
He didn't fight Canelo.
He got that body shot. I actually felt bad because I was just like,
he looked like he was in a serious amount of pain, man. That was.
I mean, he technically fought Canelo in the lawsuit. So
yeah, that is
true.
He lost that.
Yeah.
Damn it! I had him on my list and I'm shitting on him. Okay, my bad. Oscar, Oscar, if you watch this, my fault. My bad.
He was on my list, but I mean, what about Star? I mean, Star Power. Had some. He had. Yeah.
What was his most notable win? What was his most notable win?
I see Ryan Garcia heading in that direction. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, and I don't think it's just because he's promoting.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just that Ryan Garcia has the showmanship, but I don't see him beating any particularly big names.
I don't think it'll be quite the same. Just because I think De La Hoya did have quite a bit of skill.
Yes,
he was a great fighter, but he was in an era where they were just greater fighters. Ryan Garcia he's
an Instagram fighter, bro.
Yeah, he don't care.
I mean, he did beat Ricardo Mayorga.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
All I'll say is if Gervonta hits him,
they all beat him the once.
He's not getting.
I mean, so technically it's Pernell Whitaker because he got the win. Right? People don't really give him credit, but look, he got that win.
He got Pernell.
Yeah, he beat. I mean, he beat Hector. He beat Chavez.
I don't
know.
He had us. He brought Star Power to the ring. I mean,
but we getting ready to wrap up, man.
When you guys put it like that, I mean, I guess you would say it's the same argument, the same Mike Tyson argument, right? Like some people say Mike ain't really. I mean,
but the problem with that,
his biggest fights he lost.
Yeah, but the problem with that argument was if Oscar would have walked into those fights and just beat the crap out of people, that's a different story. Yeah. Mike, you got to remember there was an argument that people would call their cable company, I want my money back because Mike knocked his dude out 6 seconds and I paid $59.99.
Yeah.
I paid for a walkout. Okay, that's all I paid for.
That's hilarious.
Oscar wasn't doing that.
Right, yeah.
Oscar wasn't doing that. So I understand where you're coming from, Mike. I'm just saying.
Thank you, Oscar, because that was real annoying with Mike.
Thank you for putting on these long fights that we got to watch and then losing the big ones. I appreciate you, Oscar.
But having 26, I mean that speaks to what you're saying, though, Mikey.
I mean, he's right there. He's right. Yeah, he's right there. But
he's a boxing megastar.
Yes.
But
yes.
Did anybody have Sugar Shane on their list?
I did not have Sugar Shane.
I didn't put him on.
He was close. He was close because like I said, I did modern era boxers, so he was close. He was close to my list.
But you could have easily put him on there. He beat De La Hoya twice. Yeah.
And after you reach a certain point, I don't know. For me, after I reached a certain point, I started to think of like some of my favorite boxers.
Yeah,
like,
that's why I put Sugar Shane on there, just because he was one of my favorites. But his end of his career just wasn't as glorious as you would have liked it to be.
Yeah.
That's usually how it goes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, I can say 18. I feel good that 18 of the 25 on my list made the top 25.
There you go.
I think all of mine's except one. I think, I definitely missed some, but I think I only had like 2 people on mine not make the list. Sugar Shane.
Yeah, and 2 of mine didn't make the list. Rocky Marciano and De La Hoya.
And Rocky Marciano.
Look, I had
also.
I had Aguayo and Pryor on there, and if you guys never seen those 2 fights, man, go watch those fights. Those were wars. Those were wars, and they did a documentary on those fights. On what was it?
I think it was a 30 for 30, I think.
It wasn't 30 for 30. It was an HBO special. I forget the name of what it was called. But they talked about that like the first time they fought, because Aguayo was like a lightweight, and he would have like super lightweight, they would call it at the time, to fight Pryor. And Aguayo had this killer uppercut, man. And they're just, he's just hitting Pryor with everything. And he hits him with the uppercut and snaps his head all the way up. And Pryor just looks up and comes down and just keeps going forward. And Aguayo talked about it at the time, like he's like, also, tired, we're giving it everything we have. And I hit him with it. I just knew that I was going to put him out. And when he came forward, that just broke me. Right. And
Pryor was cheating.
And Pryor said it at the time. He said, when I got hit with that uppercut, he was like, I didn't remember my name. He was like, I didn't even remember exactly where I was at. All I knew was that I was in a fight and something told me that I had to keep going.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. So yes. I for those, they had 2 fights and Pryor won both of them, but they were both great fighters. Look them up. I think Pryor defended his title. I want to say it's like 20 times. I think he had 20 defenses. I could be off, but he had a lot of title defenses. Yeah. So they made my list.
Yeah.
All right, so we can wrap it up there.
Whatever.
Man, that was fun. So what I'm gonna do, I'll probably make these like a series, put them on Ring King's channel. We'll make these a series. I'll break it down. But man,
Ferris, what number we are?
What number we are?
We're done.
But guys, thank you so much for coming through, man. Hey, Suge, man, plug your stuff real quick, man. Let people know where they can find you.
Oh, you can find me at Suge Knight 323 at TikTok and Twitter, and then my channel Suge Knight 1323 and my Twitch at Suge Knight 1323. Hanging out there, playing video games, tweeting out nonsense. Trying to do more on my channel coming up. So yeah, come hang out, chill with me and all that stuff. Yeah, this was really fun to do. I appreciate honestly B, Jose, Deshaun, and Mike doing this with me, because I love talking about stuff like this, and this was awesome to do and hang out with you guys and talk and make jokes and get some good knowledge. I mean, hearing you guys talk about boxing, I picked some stuff up that I hadn't really known about, so it was awesome just getting to hear you guys' opinions. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate all of you guys.
Hey, thank you. And Mikey, man, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah, man, Off the Record Podcast, man. We are on Twitter, that's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere. Audio wise, you can find us on all your streaming platforms as well. So check us out, and of course,
right here, Ring King's
right here, man.
Ring King's podcast. Yes, indeed. And of course, me and B at LBHT Show. Okay, Lunch Break Hot Take. That's one of our channels. But you'll be watching this on Ring King. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed, and you can go over to Lunch Break Hot Take if you want to see some more, of us talk live Ravens and Panthers, football, and we're also going to be doing a UFC stream tonight. By the time you see this, though, it'll probably already be done. It'll be Adesanya versus Whitaker, but you can find that on that channel as well. Deshaun, you want to let people know where they can find you? Twitter, wherever, on the streets,
Instagram,
in the club.
Jesus_nephew, and at your local dispensaries everywhere, sir.
There you go. All right, we'll finish the stream here, man. Like you said, if you like what you're seeing here, man, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. Let us know who's in your top 25. Let us know who you thought should have been on there. All right. And, who knows? Maybe we'll do another list like this, something a little different in the future. But, fellas, thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see y'all later. Peace out.
Bro, appreciate it.